Speaking with Khiana about her book, Tea Time with God, was such an uplifting experience. Her positive personality, fearlessness, and devotion to both her religion and mental health advocacy was infectious. Although a new therapist, she offers such wisdom and insight into the mental health crisis, particularly into today's state of the mental health system, that it is hard to believe that she hasn't been practicing for years. We had a great discussion on how religion and mental health can conflict. I appreciated her candidness and openness and the thought-provoking conversations that resulted from the topics she presents in her book. The following is not only a guide on jumping into writing and publishing, but a thought-provoking dialogue on how to get help when one is struggling emotionally. Thank you, Khiana, for trusting me and being part of the Indie Author podcast. Now let's get to it. Hi, welcome to Indie Authors. Today we have Khiana Gray Wyatt-Locus. Thank you for coming and being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, so welcome. So I'm going to read from my notes like I always do. Your bio comes first. So you are a licensed clinical social worker associate in North Carolina. You received your bachelor's in family and community services early intervention and your master's in human development and family science from East Carolina University. You went on to also get a Master of Social Work degree from Walden University. You are a proud member of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Inc., and in your spare time, you enjoy traveling and shopping.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting. Yeah, those are two great passions to have. And you have written Tea Time with God, which is a very, very interesting project, right? So, and you're going to talk about why, but here's the blurb. So experience rest and utter peace when you invite God to tea. God's presence is in everything. If you have ever wondered where God is during bleak moments in your life, then this book is for you. If you're ready to strengthen your walk with God, this book is for you. If you'd like to learn how to balance your life as a Christian with life as a productive member of society, this book can help you do that. If you're ready to unshackle yourself from the stigma attached to mental health and Christianity, then this book is for you. A gentle reminder of the love, beauty, and comfort that comes with recognizing God in every experience in our life. Have you ever struggled to understand death, love, depression, anxiety, purpose, doubt, hurt, blessings, hope, etc., and how they fit into your daily Christian walk? This book offers you powerful alternative perspectives to renew and strengthen your faith in God. So, tall order. So, like, first of all, I want to hear about your project, and then we'll get into your writing background and all of this. So let's talk about your book.
Okay, I don't even know where to start.
Well, how did it come about? Because that's an interesting story when we were talking previously.
It came about because I was just writing, honestly, and for me, when I'm writing, I do pencil and paper. I don't know, I guess that's old-fashioned, but I am a pencil and paper person. I journal it, I write out my thoughts, my prayers, and so that's just how I do. So that's what I mean when I say I've been writing for years. And I have been thinking about writing a book for some time, and I did write a book before. And I'm trying to think. I honestly don't even remember what it was about. But I did write a book. I have been actually typing that one up on my computer, and one day I was just like, I don't even like it, and I just deleted the whole thing. And so with the book came about, I had a few of my friends where we did the PowerPoint parties that we saw on TikTok, where we picked a topic and we did PowerPoint parties about our topic. And my topic was a list of words that I hate. And my PowerPoint actually, it slapped. It was really good. But then I had another friend actually who, she didn't go to the PowerPoint party, but I showed her my PowerPoint and she was like, you should turn one of your PowerPoints into a book. And that's when it clicked for me. I was like, I already have a book. Like, I've been writing journals for a long time. So really, and my PowerPoint skills, I think, but my presentation skills are on point. Not the actual PowerPoint graphics and things, but me presenting my PowerPoint, I think I'm that girl. So so I think me putting the PowerPoint idea and the book together, it just really came about, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, beautiful. And it's just such a creative way to come to bring like a book to life, right? Like I
Mhm.
had before you told me, I had never heard of these PowerPoint parties. Clearly I'm like out of the loop on everything. So so it was just that fascinated me, never mind like the whole writing everything by hand, and that you already had so much material and you're like, oh, okay, let's do this. So
Mhm.
obviously writing the book went very fast for you because you already had a lot of it sort of journaled out, right?
Right. So yeah, it was really quick. I'm thinking maybe about 2 weeks.
That's incredible. And so, and what, okay, so you're the first PowerPoint that you talked about was about the words you hate. So what drew you to this topic, the one that you actually published?
What drew me to that, I can't even honestly remember, but I have been thinking for a while that I wanted to do like mental health and Christianity. Just based on my own spiritual journey and my own mental health journey. It's honestly been a battle for years with me trying to figure out my faith and have a closer relationship with God, but also being mentally healthy. Those two things were just clashing because what I'm learning on the spiritual side and what I'm learning in my mental health journey, honestly, it was just not going together, if that makes sense. And so I guess that I one day I just realized that I can do both. I can have a therapist, I can go to therapy, and I can pray to God too, because I will say, and I'm from North Carolina. I grew up in North Carolina, and old Southern Black folks will just tell you to pray about it. And I was tired of hearing old Southern Black folks tell me to pray about it, you know. And so I'm like, I can pray about it, but I can also worry about it too. Like both of those things can be true at the same time. And so it's like I honestly don't know where I started, if that makes sense. It seemed like it just came about. I just got sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yeah, and I think it's specifically like right now, it's such a timely topic because there's
Mhm.
a lot, like there's mental health crisis even before the whole pandemic, but now with what we've all just gone through, there's so many people who are actually coming forward to talk about it as opposed to suffering in silence, which is good. So I
Right.
think when you add that extra layer of being in a community that is like, oh no, pray the depression away,
Mhm.
that can result in even further alienation. So I think like having this available to people that may be in a community where prayer is the first line of healing, that they can privately read this, get empowered by it, and then seek help because it's okay. It's okay to live in both of those lives, right? Like,
Right.
so I think that this was a really timely and much needed resource for people out there. So, is it a devotional journal? Like what format is it in?
So yeah, so the way the book is set up is where I come in with my own personal prayers, so my own personal journals, and I write that out to God, and then I go into currently, me as a professional therapist, and I look back on what I was praying about and how I've realized how I've connected mental health concepts to what I was praying for, and maybe why those prayers weren't working or why they were answered or why I was struggling, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Because now, as a professional, now that I've grown spiritually and mentally, I can see why I was struggling. And so I I lay that out. And then also there is a journal topic or a journal prompt with each one as well. So people can also write out their own thoughts.
So good. So good because there's so much to the act of journaling. And you know what
Mhm.
else? It gives people an invitation to try something new, right? So like people who maybe have never thought, oh, maybe I'll write these things out. Like, who knows? You might spawn some great creative writers out there, or encourage
Mhm.
people to do like find a new path, right,
Mhm.
towards self-discovery. So like it sounds like a win-win-win all around.
Mhm.
So you said it was supposed to be a series, is that correct?
Yes, it is supposed to be a series.
Mhm.
Um, because I started with this one when I was writing it, I was like, I need to go back and do some more. So I have not started my series yet, but I do definitely have some ideas that I think will be helpful because there's just so much to cover and so many other topics I want to discuss, and I think they will be helpful as well.
And like if you look at something like the chicken soup for the soul series,
Mhm.
right? It started as a one-off, and now it's like everybody's soul is included in
Right.
that. Yeah, right. So I hope that this is the same trajectory for you, but at the core of it, it's just a lovely thing that you're doing this to help people, right? And that you're giving of yourself so freely because of your professional background, and offering this advice, and encouraging people to either work it out if it's not a serious matter, work it out themselves, or I'm assuming you also say, seek guidance if it's out of your depth, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
because some things I think can be worked out on their own, maybe if it's not so big. But I am always a huge advocate for going and working with a professional when it's needed, because
Right.
and a objective observation, or someone who's outside the situation, can offer so much help. Obviously, you know this, you do this for a living. So it's wonderful. So you've already had like great success. You started selling, I should say, December 5th, right? And at the time of our conversation, which was just, I think, a couple weeks ago, before Christmas, wasn't it? Before
Mhm.
Christmas? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So at that time, you had already sold 24 copies. So this is like, that was great. So it was just I think a week or so after the initial release of it. So are you still selling, or is it going well?
Yeah, I'm at 40 copies right now.
That's amazing. Good for you. So 40 people that's helping. And then, yeah. And the good thing about this kind of stuff is that when someone hears that someone else is suffering, they often say, wait, I've got a book for you. So
Mhm.
you've got a really great word of mouth uh, prospect starting up. But also, what else are you doing to get the word out there?
Um, Social media, definitely using social media. I am doing the ads on Facebook, Instagram, Amazon. Um, I will admit I'm not doing them very well, but I am using the ads. And I'm also looking into just like doing vendor events. Again, with me being in a sorority, having those connections when it comes to vendor events and things. And also with me being in a town that does a lot of festivals and events. So finding those little things, and farmers markets, finding those and trying to get set up at those as well. So aside from the ads, I'm also trying to find some free things to do as well.
Yeah. And the sorority aspect, like I don't even know if we must have sororities here. I wasn't in one, but I just out of pure curiosity, and for those of us who were not exposed to a sorority or a fraternity, right? So
Mhm.
it's like a sisterhood, a brotherhood, right? And do you guys keep close after you've completed your studies? Is that the whole purpose of joining a sorority?
Yeah, so when it comes to the historically Black sororities and fraternities, we actually have graduate chapters where we can continue to be members and serve our communities after we graduate. So yeah, a lot of the graduate chapters are usually women and men who are 30 plus. Sometimes the younger people do join straight from undergrad. I was one of those people. Once I graduated, I went straight and joined a graduate chapter. So I've always been the youngest member for the most part in the graduate chapters. But yeah, it is for us. It is a lifelong commitment where we can serve our communities and come together in fellowship.
It's so beautiful. I wish I had something like that, because that sounds so beautiful and lovely and just so purposeful, right? Like,
Mhm.
oh gosh, that's nice. I really did my life wrong, I think, along the way.
But I'm like, I'm not going to recruit you, but you can still join.
Oh, okay. Oh, really? Like you could, I, even if you hadn't been in one before, you could still join one later?
So as long as you have a 4-year degree, you
Yeah.
can join.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay, I'm gonna have to think about that, because that you've just opened my mind. This is in real time, guys. My mind just got blown in real time. I had no idea. I'm glad I asked that question, because you reach a certain age and you just want to find things to make your life more sort of purposeful and
Mhm.
in service of something bigger than just yourself.
Right.
So, and that's a good bit of advice for any listener too, who's feeling the same way. Like, I didn't know this. Educating all the time. This is so great. Um, so you said that you just jumped into the whole publishing thing, the whole thing sort of on not a whim, but you just like dove right into the into the deep end, and that you wouldn't recommend it. This is what you said in our first conversation. So let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that would be super valuable for other people who are, wondering where to start and how to start. So proceed.
So yeah, I definitely would not recommend. I did jump in on a whim. I will say sometimes I'm just gonna do it because when it comes to some things, I'm like, I don't like reading the instructions. I don't want to watch the tutorial. I'm just gonna do it and figure it out. And I have been figuring it out the hard way. So with the Amazon ads and things, because I'm like, I don't know how they work. So it's like you said, a budget, and then it's like cost per clicks and all this good stuff. And I'm like, I don't know what that means. But I know they have been charging my card unexpectedly, and I was like, wait a minute now, you're cutting into my hair budget and things. So I would recommend watching the instructional videos and things that they do have, because they do have those on Amazon for the ads. And also not running everything at once, because again, I did not know what I was doing. So I ran all the ads on Amazon, on Facebook, on Instagram, and even on Amazon in another country. And I was like, okay, because I don't know the other currency methods in other countries. I don't even know what those are. But I would not recommend doing that. I would recommend finding a budget, maybe running one ad per week if that's in your budget. And you don't have to jump in, and you don't have to do everything at once, because like, I know we're excited and we want to be successful and we want things to go well, but don't break the bank.
Yeah, and that's a good bit of advice, right? Because I was speaking with another writer, and they were like, the book has, like, once you release the book, it's got a lifespan. So like you said, there's no end date necessarily to this project, right? So
Right.
so pacing yourself, making sure you have a budget. I know there's tons of resources out there on how to set a planning budget for these things. I'll try to find and link them down below, wherever wherever they link to. So let me write that down. Budget templates, because that is a big consideration. The amount of money you want to put into marketing, where you want your dollar spent in the marketing, searching out as much free marketing as possible, doing podcasts, like just sharing on social media. All those things are a big consideration. But the other thing that people don't often think about is budgeting your time. So if you have a full-time job, or if you are a full-time parent, or if you're a full-time caregiver, you have to think, like, I've got to budget my time as well, because it does take some time to plan all this out. So how are you finding, like, with your career and with trying to get this book off, and especially during the holidays, right? Because that's always everyone's crunch for time over the holiday season. So how are you finding your time management?
Both good and bad. I'm having my good days and my bad days. I would say, especially when I first published, the bad day would be as soon as I wake up, I'm already on my phone, like, oh my gosh, what sold? Or did somebody like my post? And it's like, sis, please relax. Like, I need you to calm down. And so on my good days, I'm like, okay, let me get let me prioritize. Let me get my stuff out the way first, my stuff that I get paid for first out of the way. Because I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get paid for this, but it's like, I gotta put work into it. Free work, that is. So let me do my paid for work first.
Yeah.
And then, we're gonna put this last on the list. Even if I only get 5-10 minutes to put towards it, it's still some time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's you're coming up with gems today, because that's another thing. Like, even if it is 5 or 10 minutes, it's still 5 or 10 minutes more than saying, no, forget it, I'm not going to do it at all. Right. So yeah, so try to find a little bit of time wherever you can, but don't drive yourself nuts, essentially. Yeah. And get your top priorities done for, because it's so hard, right? Like, just on a regular, like, it's hard to manage a life. Like, if you're working, and then you've got your household or your personal needs that need to be met, and all these things. But where there's a will, there's a way. So keep on it. So you did work with an editor, right? So that was one thing that you decided upon. And how was your experience with the editor? And would you recommend it going forward?
My experience was really good. I will say that, again, with me being who I am, I just be doing random things. I randomly found an editor. I was like, please edit my book, sis, because this is actually the second version of my book, because there is another version. It's the same book, but the editor, made the cover, she did the title and made it nice and pretty on the inside. So I do recommend working with the editor, and of course, if you have the funds for it and the budget for it, because it is an investment, and don't expect a quick return on your investment as well. So definitely it should be a risk that you're willing to take. But I'm like, I also don't know how editors work, because this was my first time doing this, but I'm like, my sis was really good, and I highly recommend her, because like I said, she did the cover, she did the title, because I really came with nothing. I just came with vibes. I was like, I don't know what I want, but this is my book. Like, please turn it into something. And she did, and she gave me the title, Tea Time with God, and the picture on the cover and everything. And she was saying, when you're talking to God, it's like peaceful, and you're drinking tea out in the garden, because she's also from the United Kingdom. And I was like, sis, I'm gonna spend that, because I'm spilling the tea with God. And I'm like, for those who don't know, spilling the tea is when basically, we're talking, we're having a conversation, and I'm letting God know what the tea is, which is what's going on in this crazy world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was nice, because she handled everything. She uploaded my book to Amazon for me. I really did not have to do much, but I still worried, because like I said, I just randomly found her, and I didn't know if she was scamming me, to be honest. But she was not. She did everything she said she was going to do, and then some.
And how did you find her?
Again, me being random, I have a bookshelf full of books, and I just literally just randomly went through different books and contacted editors and publishers.
That's
and,
amazing.
and she got back to me.
That's amazing. You're so like an outside of the box thinker. Like, that is,
I appreciate that.
so smart. So smart. Okay, so there is some advice. Yes, so here we go. One of your pieces of advice: don't jump in if you don't know what you're doing. So how would you then, if you were to do this all over again, what steps? But I know the type of personality, because I too have that same personality. I'm like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to do it, and then figure it out. But if we were of different natures, what would you do if you well, it doesn't make any sense to ask you. If you were a completely different person, what would you do? No, but I mean, having gone through this, what would you do, like, to prepare yourself to, or even in the future, like lessons learned from this? Would you approach it any differently? Would you take different steps?
I think I would plan more. Of course, like I said, with the ads and budgeting, I would plan more for that. I really think that's the only thing, because I'm like, even though I did not, budget for the money that was taken from the ads, it also has not been a bad experience, because like I said, it's not like it affected my bills or anything. This was just my fun money that's been affected. So I haven't had as much fun, but also still I'm glad that I learned from it, and I'm glad to be able to share. So it's like, at the same time, I wouldn't do anything differently, because then it wouldn't make me who I am right now.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why I was like, that's a dumb question, because yeah, if you changed your entire personality and approach life differently, it's so dumb of me. But I also like this bit of advice about taking a risk when trying to achieve your goals and betting on yourself, because I think people don't do that enough. So, and that can apply to anything, right? Like any part of life, right? So if you're not your own best bet, what does that say? So about that mindset. Now, is that something that you would recommend to your clients as well, if they came to you struggling with something and with self-esteem? Is that something that you tell your patients or clients that you see?
It depends on the clients. For some of them, we gotta tread softly and lightly. And then for some of them, I can be like, sis, I need you to do better. So it really just depends. And also when it comes to just jumping into things, I think it depends as well. Even for somebody like me, who I am a go-getter, but some things I need to jump in and do, and some things I need to wait and see and be more patient. So I really think it just depends on the situation.
Yeah, yeah. In the personality type, there's always going to be people who have to be sort of prompted along and they're not ready. But regardless, like that mindset is a great mindset. Like bet on yourself. Like, you
Right.
know, you
Nobody
gotta
else can do it.
yeah, right. So I love that when you said that. Now, you were a bit worried about this book because you're a new therapist, and you're new to your current church, right? So what made you just decide, okay, forget it, I can't worry about these things?
Um, I'm trying to think what I guess is it again that mindset for me, like, okay, it's gonna happen. Whatever happens, happens. Um, Let me see. With the new therapist thing first, because I am newly licensed. Well, actually, I'm like, what is today? Let me back up. Next month I'll be licensed for a year. So I've had my clinical license for a year, but I did not start practicing until July of this year. I mean July of 2022. So I've only been, practicing seeing clients for a couple of months. And I think I learned along the way as well, me realizing that sometimes experience doesn't always mean better or smarter, if that makes sense. And same thing, maturity doesn't always come with age. It comes to it comes from your experiences and what you do. And I will say, even with my own therapist experiences, I had a couple therapists like diagnose me and give me a diagnosis, and I'm like, I know I just got here, but that don't seem right, sis. And I finally just stepped out one day and was like, okay, it's not right. I don't agree with it. I know I'm new here, but I know some things because I actually was told that I had a diagnosis of bipolar disorder, and not anything against bipolar disorder, but when it comes to especially African Americans, they are sometimes overdiagnosed with that, and
Really?
other disorders like schizophrenia and those kind of things, and they don't actually necessarily have it. And so me getting that diagnosis, I was like, I'm gonna challenge that. That's not something I'm just gonna accept.
I'm making a note of this because I didn't realize that this was a prevalent thing. That's interesting. And is there any, well, I'm going to research it for sure, but do you know off the top why that would be? Is it just sort of like, oh, I know some healthcare providers or mental health practitioners tend to group certain people into certain categories, and they're like, oh yeah, exhibiting this, and this, yeah, you got that. But it's like, what? No. So is it just a symptom of that, or like that? Because that is disturbing that people would be walking around thinking that they've got these labels when it's not in fact the truth, because that can be just as disabling as being impacted by the disorder that they are being, labeled with.
Right. And I will say it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think it comes with some experience. I will say, even myself, with some of us in our MSW programs, we really get thrown into some things, if we're being real. Because a lot of these mental health places, they are short staffed, overworked and underpaid. So we're coming in with little experience, but we're working with some major clients. And especially when you have to bill to insurance. So with me, working for a place that has to build an insurance, as soon as I meet you and do your assessment, I have to go ahead and give you a diagnosis. So it's like, how can I diagnose somebody with like a lifetime disorder based off me only meeting you for an hour?
Fascinating. So the system is really working against the current system, is working against people. I mean, I think that that is prevalent throughout, that this systematic failure, right? Is a common theme. Like we have the same thing going on in Canada as well, where our system is just, especially for mental health, is just so broken, and people are either getting misdiagnosed or overdiagnosed or just falling through the cracks. And unfortunately, we're seeing an uptake right now in violence, where like random acts of violence that are coming out of like a place of anger or some sort of behavioral problem or behavioral issue that hasn't been maybe picked up or addressed. And I mean, I've been a frequent flyer in the hospital for different reasons, like in the emergency room I have an autoimmune condition, and every time there's someone like, for some reason, and I don't know if this is a sign or if I should be taking this personally, but I end up beside like the quiet room where they put like those who are having some sort of big meltdown, or they're
Mhm.
being transferred out to a mental health facility. And it's so heartbreaking to hear the anguish and that people aren't listening, like, and they're
Mhm.
begging for them to listen. This is a whole other discussion which comes off of your book, and I'm sorry that we got into this, but that, yeah, there's just it's a crisis right now. Right?
Mhm.
So it's not a good thing that's happening. So, but continue on. So going back to what you were saying, so you were just sort of worried and about the book and being new in your practice, and being new at your church. But all of this seems like I mean, everything that you've put into this book seems like it's so desperately needed. So I'm glad that you went ahead and did it. Now, have you gotten any feedback from anybody from like your career side or your church family or church
Um,
community?
Mostly from people that I already know, and actually I will double back because back to me feeling new. I'm not new at my church, but I guess I would consider myself to be new in the faith.
Okay.
Not necessarily new, but like I'm not as experienced as other people because I didn't grow up in church, or I'm not a preacher's kid or anything like that. So that's why, another reason why I felt that I wasn't as experienced when it came to the book and talking about Christianity. Um and as far as feedback though, I've gotten a lot of good feedback, but I'm like, it's from people who already know me. So I'm like, are you guys, is it really good? Or are you just saying that, to make me feel better? So yeah, I haven't had any strangers really tell me it was good yet.
Yeah. There's actually I think there's a Facebook group now, author and book promotion or something like that. I don't know if they do reviews, but I know that people put their books up there and they're
Mhm.
like, oh, and to get some, at least to do the networking, social networking. So you might want to check that out. I'll put the link somewhere as well. Authors, and sorry guys, for those listening, my head's down making notes. For the viewers, if you've watched any of my videos so far, none of them have been posted yet. This is pre-production. They're going to see a lot of the top of my head. So because I'm always making note, Facebook group. I hope the admins don't kill me because I didn't ask for permission, but I'm sure that they would be fine. Um, what are they going to do? Yell at me? I'm driving people to their to their site or their group. So
Okay, well,
um, yeah, I love this part of the discussion that we had where you said that as a clinician, you think that the profession is trying to shine light on religious trauma, a new model, and you want to pursue it. So I've been, for some reason, I've been watching, and nobody judge, on I'm watching a lot on YouTube about such religious organizations as Scientology. So maybe not, they're more of the the and I do not judge anybody's religion. I do not judge anyone's faith, because whatever works for you is whatever works for you. But I also see that sometimes this idea about religious trauma is very disturbing for the people who are experiencing it. And I'm not suggesting that Christians fall in line with Scientology. Do not, because that, I know, completely different, not even on the same like wavelength at all. Nor am I suggesting that the trauma that results from Scientology could possibly be the trauma that results from whatever happens in a Christian environment. I am neither. So I am just an outlier looking in. But I do know, and in my own religion, I've seen some trauma occur because of the lifestyle that's being led is in strict contrast to the religious beliefs, and then the trauma occurs. Or if you don't fit in 100% with the way that a religion is supposed to be, you're supposed to be living a godly life, and if you go outside of that, then there's all this trauma. So let's talk about that from your standpoint, that this is a new model that has to be addressed because it's happening.
Yeah, and I will only speak about my experience, but I will be honest. There was a point where I honestly I hated God. I hated religion. I hated church because you know it was my own family telling me that God don't like ugly, and you gotta pray about this and all that stuff. But it's like y'all ain't doing right. Like I just if this is the God y'all are praying to and y'all act like this, then I don't want to partake. I'm just being honest. And so and I think that's still happening a lot today and turning a lot of people away from religion and spirituality and having a relationship with God. I figured out for myself that what was going on, like this wasn't of God. And so I think that's another reason why the mental health aspect comes into play as well, because a lot of people are doing things because they honestly are not mentally well. A lot of times in the church, the sometimes I've heard a couple of sermons where it's like, oh, you come to church, but then you leave and you're already cussing people out in the parking lot, and things like that. And it's like, I get it, but church is not going to change us alone, if that makes sense. Prayer is not going to change us alone. Spirituality is only one dimension of health. And the reason why a lot of people are going to church and praying and not seeing any effects or any successes because they're neglecting all the other dimensions of health, like their physical health and their finances and their emotional health and their mental health. There's other dimensions of health, that we need to focus on. And it doesn't mean, of course, God can solve everything. That's what we believe. God can solve all problems. He can do everything. But I don't think people are realizing that God is giving us the resources that we need so we can do everything. He's not saying also he does perform miracles. Sometimes miracles do happen, but sometimes we have to use those resources. I will say somebody told me that sometimes we ask God for a cake and God gives us the ingredients to make the cake. I don't think people are realizing they have the ingredients and they're just waiting on the cake, if that makes sense.
No, 100%, because there is that whole thing about free will, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you study the Bible at all, I mean, Eve was the original free will. Like she took free will to take the apple and it got them ousted. And there's a whole debate if you read about the meaning behind all of that, and different religions come at that story from different angles. But I mean, primarily, like, we do have free will, and part of free will is deciding, okay, if my religion or my religious experience isn't providing enough nurturing as I could possibly need, then I have to have another, like you said, ingredient for the cake, right? Like let's add something else that's going to help, and there's no shame in it. And I mean, and again, that whole idea about, yeah, you want to live your best life. You want to be as kind to your neighbors and your fellow man as possible, and not display moments of anger, and be helpful and always look out for your fellow man. But then there's also points, and that's all good to preach and to try to live up to. But you're right. Like if you are in some sort of serious financial situation, your home life is falling apart, whatever is going on, like you're being bullied at school, something, just internalizing that anger is going to result in a meltdown and a public outburst. And it's not enough to, and sometimes when you go and you're begging for help from someone and they say, well, just do this, right? It can result in even more upset and more anger and more rejection, and then it compounds the problem. Right. So I love that you're looking at things to broaden out the religious perspective and like to use it as part of the solution. I think that is a really admirable way to to like baby step people who are maybe, and another thing about all the stigma that has always surrounded seeking help. Like it's like almost like, well, if you seek help, then you're either really crazy or ill-equipped to deal with life, or you're airing your dirty laundry. That's another big thing. Like, who are you to, air your dirty laundry? Like, just suck it up and keep moving forward, right?
Right.
And those kind of attitudes may have been necessary back in the day when there weren't these services available, right? But now there's no excuse. I mean, there is an excuse because there's not enough practitioners. So that is a very, but I mean, like, there's no excuse not to try, because there's so many resources online, and there's so many books, and there's so many ways to connect, even in a peer-based group, where if you're all having anger control issues, you all get together and talk about it and try to find a solution. There's groups popping up everywhere that can help. Some are practitioner led, some are like former like volunteers who had these former issues. So there's always ways to get help, and to also be a religious person too. There's no harm. Like if you were diagnosed, I mean, some religions frown upon the medical system, so we'll exclude them out of this conversation. But the majority, if you were diagnosed with something like diabetes, where you needed constant either a medication or an adjustment in your diet, or you needed actual injections to live a healthy life, why wouldn't you do that?
Right.
So let's equate that to mental health, right?
Right.
Like if you need
Exactly.
that support from someone else, or from, like I said, a practitioner, a clinician, whoever, a peer, why think of it differently than like a person with diabetes or another condition, arthritis, whatever. And I just want to say I have to thank my friend for that line. So thank you, Adele, because she's the first one who had this conversation with me, and she'll be like, that sounds really familiar if she ever listens. So I always want to give credit to where credit's due. So yeah, so I'm really happy that you are out there doing this, that there's going to be another one in the series coming. So what are you thinking? Like, have you started working on it? Do you want to give this some time to, because there's two camps, right? You build your back list so that people can dive into your, they get 1, 2, 3 going right away, and then you can start putting out at a more regular basis. And then there's others who are like, I do one a year. So do you fall into either, or what are your plans?
I definitely, I don't want to jump in again like I did with this one. I do have some ideas. I'm thinking maybe some childhood trauma edition, even a relationship edition. But I'm also thinking supply and demand. So I want to see how this first one goes, because I'm like, are people even gonna read it? I don't want to put it all out there and then it's not performing the way that I wanted to. So I'm definitely gonna see how the first one goes.
Well, if it's going the way it's going, I think it's going to be good, because I mean, like, people would just be so happy about uh, selling 40 in a month. Like that's amazing, right? Like it's so amazing. So is it available on, I can't remember, and I should have looked this up before we started, on Kindle Unlimited, or no, it doesn't suit it, right? Like you need the
It
book.
is on Kindle.
Oh, it is. Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So you can work with it while you're, okay, that's an excellent option as well, right? So you can either have it, work with it, or have it
Mhm.
on Kindle Unlimited. That's so great. And there was something else, I don't think other people have mentioned this, about if you're considering starting with like KDP or Kindle Unlimited, that the payment schedule is a little bit uh delayed. Not a
Mhm.
criticism, just a warning. So what you were saying, that you won't be seeing anything until what? Like you can see it,
Um,
but you won't be receiving until two
I want to
months.
say February. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I've sold 40 copies in all. So in December I sold 37, and as of right this month, January, I've sold 3. But yeah. So December I would not see those payments until February, and then January I wouldn't see those payments until March, because like I said, there's an older version of my book, and I was like, oh, I'm finally getting my royalty payment, and it was $3.99 from that that one book that I sold. And so I'm like, okay, gotcha. So I'm not gonna be receiving payment this quickly.
Yeah.
So
See,
that's another reason why I say don't jump in.
I was just going to say, so that's another reason why it's good to have these things up front, so like, oh, okay, I can't plan that new yacht until a few months down the road.
Right.
Okay, so I love this quote too. There's always going to be people who don't think what you do is enough. And so that can apply in so many different ways. So what prompted you to say that? And what does that mean when you come up against someone? Well, you haven't had any negative feedback on the book yet, but this is a good mantra to have if you ever do, which I hope you never do. But yeah, so let's talk about that as well.
Um, first I was like, when did I say that? But it sounds good. But
I know there's a lot of profound things that you said here. You're so smart. So
thank you. But I guess for me, realizing and when it comes to pleasing other people, because I don't consider myself to be a people pleaser, but I know that there are people who are. And actually, let me back up. Maybe I was a people pleaser at one point in my life, but realizing that, okay, if I do what this one person wants me to do, now there's another person who'd be like, no, you should have did this instead. And it's like, okay, am I ever right? If that makes sense, can I ever be right? It seems like I'm always gonna do wrong. You know, like my mom might want me to have this career, but then my grandma's mad because I didn't take this career. And it's like it's always somebody who's mad, and it's always somebody who got something to say. So it's like if you can't please anybody anyway, you might as well just do what you want.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, it's so profound that you say that, because that can stop people too, right? So if you are one that seeks external validation a lot, or that's what drives you, and I'm not saying that that's not, if it's good, bad, I'm not, this is not a judgment statement, but if you're that type of person, then you can get very disheartened by having that sort of feedback in your life, right? And so it's you have to develop that idea, like, okay, that's your thought, thank you for your opinion on that, but I disagree, and I'm going to go ahead and do whatever, because
Right.
otherwise, you're just always being sort of like a people pleaser, and like, okay, I'll, and you find yourself in situations you never wanted to be in. I mean, how many times have you heard the story about someone who married the wrong person because they wanted to please family, friend, whoever, right? Like, it was a marriage based on pleasing somebody else, or taking a job that isn't suitable because they couldn't say no because their uncle got them the job, or their whatever, right? Like,
Right.
and so this also goes with developing a tough skin to naysayers if you get like a bad review. And like I said, thankfully you haven't had one, but I know some people get really crushed when they receive that bad review. But it's like, yeah, you know what, not everyone's gonna think you're good enough, not everyone's gonna think you do enough. And okay, thank you for your input. Was it constructive? I would hope that the people who write bad reviews explain why the review is bad, and then you can judge it and say, okay, well, I'll apply this next time, or this is way off base, I'm not even going to waste my time with it. So it's a good sort of thing, a good bit of advice to live your life, and it's so good for everything. That's why you do what you do, because you're obviously so good at it. Like,
Thank you.
taking out all these like nuggets of wisdom. So yeah, so I hope that you keep writing, despite, because when you said like childhood trauma, relationship issues, so I'm hoping that, sorry, I keep getting distracted by that reflection of the ring light in my, there we go. I've got to like, keep my eye down. I've got to slouch down on my chair. I'm hoping that those will come to fruition, because maybe the people who would read those wouldn't necessarily be reading the first one, right? Or the people who read the first one need those second and third ones, because maybe they have childhood trauma and that goes over into their relationship. So I'm hoping that it still comes to pass for you, because that would be, I just think, so helpful, just so helpful to the people out there. Any last thoughts that you want to impart upon our audience who will be watching or listening?
I'm like, I don't know. You put me on the spot.
Oh yeah, sorry.
I will say, I guess, if you want to do something, it might not be a book, anything you want to do, I will say do it, and do it scared. If you're scared, do it scared. If you doubt it, do it with doubts. Because that's another thing I have learned to do. It's also funny too, because people see me as a very confident person, carefree. I do as I please. I'm free. I'm not afraid of anything, which is true. But also, like, I don't think a lot of people realize I do it scared. Like this whole conversation right now, I am playing with my anxiety toys, and I'm sweating bullets right now. But you couldn't have known that until I told you.
Exactly. Yeah, because you were like a seasoned pro. I'm like, oh, I'm such a buffoon in comparison. I'm playing with the lid of my pen, and that's why I keep looking down, because there's something weird on the lid of my pen. So I totally get you. But yeah, no, you are a picture of grace and poise. So this is excellent for people to see, and that's why it's so important to have these conversations. So continue on. Yeah, doing it scared.
Right. Do it scared. Do it unfinished with imperfections. Because like I said, I had a first version that was like I said, the words are the same, but the title and the cover wasn't that great. But do it unfinished, do it with imperfections, do it if you don't think is that great. Just look, like Nike says, just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, exactly.
But I tell my husband that all the time because he always wears Nike. I said, do what your shirt says. Just do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, what's the worst, right? What's the absolute worst that could
Mhm.
happen? You learn from it,
Right.
right? Like you have an experience and you learn from it. That is
Mhm.
literally the worst. And not to say what's the worst, you fail, because I don't believe any attempt at anything is a failure. I think every successful attempt at something is a learning opportunity and an opportunity for you to grow, apply it to new situations, to better oneself. Like there's, and like you said, if it comes from a place of fear or self-doubt, that's even a better thing, because you've taken that fear and self-doubt and you've triumphed over it. Like you've even if you haven't done anything else other than proving to yourself you can just do it, you did
Right.
it. Yeah.
And I think
So
that's another thing too, like, which is something I still have to do myself. Stop expecting so much, like, because me just doing this right here is a big success, is a big accomplishment. And even with me selling 40, because again, I don't know what is a good number for a self-published book, because again, I never did it. So I'm just like, this is an accomplishment in itself. Just me getting on here, getting on camera, talking about it, writing the book. Those are accomplishments in itself, because there are people who are not living their dreams. They're not taking a chance. They're not taking risk, and some people are dying with regrets.
yeah, yeah. And it is so refreshing to hear, because a lot of the writers that I've been speaking with, like that has been a common theme. Like, what is your idea of success? What is like, how do you measure success? And the majority are, I I've succeeded. I've published something and it's out there, and that is my success. I mean,
Right.
obviously anything extra is gravy on top,
Mhm.
but just to do what people always talk about doing. How many times have you heard someone say, "Oh, I'm going to write a book," or you say to someone, "Oh, you should write a book," and it never happens. But
Right.
you're in this class of people that have done it, like this group that have been like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, okay, well, I'm actually going to do it," instead of just like me, who talks about it constantly. And I'm like, "I'm working on a new book," and they're like, "What about the 50 other that you were supposed to start?" Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm getting to them. Don't worry. Uh, so
You can get this.
yeah, well, we'll see. I don't know. I'm so privileged and excited to meet all of you guys, because it's such a great community out
Mhm.
there, and you can revel in your accomplishments, you guys on the other side of the screen, all of your accomplishments, because everyone's a decent human being that I've had on, with wonderful like backstories, and they bring something unique every time, and that's what I was worried about. Like, oh, is it going to become kind of like repetitious, right? In certain parts, everyone experiences, but in their own way. But there's always something profoundly unique about each person, and that's what makes us all individuals, obviously. And I get re-inspired every single time I meet someone new. So it's wonderful. But you killed this. I would have never known that you were nervous. I would have never known you were anything but like confident. I was like, she should have my job.
Like, no, no, sis, I'm faking.
I am faking till I make it. That's what I do with everything I do, even like
Mhm.
everything. And that's why I'm an oversharer, because I'm faking it, and I'm like, I get nervous, and then I just blurt out a whole bunch of stuff. But anyway, well, I thank you. I thank you for this. I encourage you to get that next one done, because I'd love to have you on again, because I just think that you're so inspirational and in a um, positive energy in this world that needs positive energy. And I don't know if you should ask your editor if she would mind having her information shared, because I can link that down below. But I'm also going to link your book down below, of course, because that's the whole point, so that people can pick up your book, Tea
I
Time with
will say
God.
also, I do have a copy. Can
Oh,
you see that?
good. Okay, good.
It's too bright.
It's a little bright, but yeah, it's perfect. It's like so she did a really good job. Yeah, because there's just so much like in that image. There's just it's so welcoming, and it's true.
Mhm.
Like, and I love that like double meaning, like spilling the tea with God, like which again, I had no idea what that meant until TikTok. So that one I picked up, I was already like, oh, I know spilling the tea. I've never actually used that expression, because I always felt like I was an old lady trying to be cool. But yeah, I love the cover. It's so calming. It's so welcoming, right? Who doesn't want to sit in that garden? So who doesn't want to pick up that book? So
Right.
yeah, so I'm going to link all of that down below, the link to your book on Amazon. And yeah, that's where it is, just Amazon, right? You haven't, you don't have it listed on Barnes and Noble or anything like that, right? Just
No,
Amazon?
just Amazon.
Okay, you're an Amazon girl. Okay, good. So thank you. Thanks for taking the time. Thanks for being amazing. And yeah, and thanks for all the wonderful insight that you provided along the way.
Okay, and I'm like, thank you, because I feel like you took a chance on me.
Are you kidding? You took a chance on me. And when you're like, oh, this is a success beat on this, I'm like, what is she talking? I'm praying that this is going to be a successful podcast for all the people that, and I don't care about myself, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm a clown, regardless. But for you guys, I'm hoping it's a success because, like I said, wonderful people with really good messages that need to be heard by the community. Plus, this added thing about talking about religious trauma, opening up the door to people exploring that. Maybe they're experiencing that, or just feeling alienated in their church because their mental health is not being met, or whatever, their place of worship. Let's not just exclude it to church. I mean, this is a Christian-based book, but I don't think that should mean that other people can't access it if they're feeling alienation. Just because you come at it from a viewpoint of Christianity, the Jews, Muslims, and Christians all share the same God. It's just their opinion on Jesus is a little bit varied. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's all, we're all just trying to find some inner peace on earth, and brotherhood among men and women, brother and sisterhood. I should be inclusive. So yeah, so I mean, it's a good message that you're sending out there. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
And I wish you continued good luck. I mean, continued success, not good luck. I wish you good luck, of course, but you're already having it with the sales, because yes, a lot of people will say 40 is amazing in a month. So don't even worry. Like,
Okay.
you already killed it. You already take that off your list of, yes, I've accomplished success of sales success. So anyway, but I can send, I'll also list some of the Facebook groups down below, but I'll send them to you as well so that you can check them out to help with promotion and things like that. So yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Take care.